Canelo in Riyadh in May, the big fight in the history of boxing. In September, then two more fights in 26. Don't miss with the line.
The truth is, this news cycle of boxing for the last 24 to 48 hours has been crazy, right? I'm talking about it's been hot and cold, left and right, up and down, you know, fights on, fights off, deals off, deals on, you know, and it's real crazy. But, you know, we're going to try to provide an update. Well, we're going to provide an update and try to provide some clarity to this whole situation. You know what I'm saying? And in addition to that update, there's also going to be some shit talk.
If I tell you I'm good, probably you will say I'm boasting. But if I tell you I'm no good, you know one line.
Yo, what's good, Boxing Talk family? It's your boy, Dr. Boxing Talk, back for another YouTube video. Banger, man. Yes, sir. Yes, man. I know what time it is. The doctor's in the house, man. So check this out. As a lot of y'all seen, if you haven't been living under a rock or had your head in the sand, you know, there's been a lot of updates, you know, as far as the freaking Canelo and Crawford fight has been going, you know, as it pertains to that. You know, there's been some updates, some ups and downs, you know, there's been some news that's been breaking and some other developments that have been shaking, you know what I'm saying? So right now, as it is today, the Canelo Crawford fight is back on, you know, despite what we saw from the Ring magazine that the fight was off. And then we also saw that the Jake Paul fight was on. And then we also see that the Jake Paul fight is off, you know, and before we saw that Canelo, well, I was going to say we thought we knew that Canelo had a 3-fight deal with Big Turk and Riyadh season. Well, not only does he not have a 3-fight deal, now he has a 4-fight deal. According to Mike Coppinger and Ring magazine, you know, they've even showed some of his opponents. You can check it out here. So as you can see, they have not just the dates for this year, but they also have 2 more dates for next year. And the first thing that jumps out at you, well, the first thing that jumps out at me was not forget the opponent, you know what I'm saying, which is, you know, Brunello is kind of crazy. You know, Bruno Saras, for those of you unfamiliar with his nickname, that's kind of crazy. Jamal Charlo hasn't fought. He's been inactive. So I would love that fight, but I think he needs a tune-up. So him being next is crazy, you know, but and then Chris Eubank and Hamza Shiraz is also crazy, but Shiraz is a little bit more understanding, but Chris Eubank Jr., that's very crazy. So forget about the personnel because that's crazy. That's a whole nother video in itself. But let's talk about the dates, right? The first thing that jumped out to me was I see 2 dates that are not May for Cinco de Mayo weekend or September for Mexican Independence Day weekend, right? So, you know, those dates are in February and October. And while that aligns with Riyadh season, it doesn't align with what's typical for Canelo Alvarez fight dates. You know, it's atypical of that, right? So that made me take a step back. You know, it took me aback. Now I will say this though, nothing's impossible, right? It's not like Canelo has never fought on dates that weren't Cinco de Mayo or in September, right? But the last time he did so was in 2021 in November against Caleb Plant. So he's done it before. It's just not it's not something that happens often. You know, it's not a reoccurring theme, right? The reoccurring theme is that he fights either in May or September or most of the times both, right? So I think that seems a little shaky, suspicious, but you know, at the same time, these are just preliminary anticipated dates and bouts, right? So they are subject to change, and boxing moves with fluidity. However, I want to point to that a lot of times we, especially the media, you know, all of us included, we like to get information out first instead of prioritizing being correct and being right. So yes, this is just preliminary, and just because it may or may not change doesn't mean that anybody's wrong. You know, even with the ups and downs with the Canelo fight being on or off in regards to Jake Paul or William Skull or Terence Bud Crawford, you know, it's not that you're necessarily wrong when you get it from the source. That's what's happening right now, but it's just because these talks are happening simultaneously. You know, especially when it comes to Saul Canelo Alvarez, right? This is not far-fetched or weird by any means for him. It's not abnormal at all. That's not atypical at all. This is what he does, right? He'll be talking to multiple people all at once simultaneously. Now, how far they get obviously depends on him, first and foremost, as a face of boxing, but it also depends on which deal he believes is the most lucrative or beneficial for him and his brand at this particular moment. You know what I'm saying? So I do believe that he was talking to Jake Paul. And what I think is indicative of that is Jake Paul being disgruntled and his response to Canelo going the Bud route. Check it out. So Jake Paul has released on his Twitter account, and I quote, he said, "Breaking news, Canelo Alvarez ducked me." Yeah, sure. Jake Paul, and is now an owned slave with no regard for the pride of the Mexican people who support him on U.S. soil. It's not surprising when his whole career he has... I'm sorry for laughing. He has done nothing for the sport of boxing outside the ring. I'm the new face of boxing. You cannot have the biggest fight of 2025 without my name involved. Bullshit! Bullshit! Bullshit, 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 bullshit. When all of your events tank and lose money, you will all realize who the king of the sport is. 28 years old. Biggest fight in boxing history. My own boss. Not owned. 5 years in. All of you felines want to see me fail, but God has other plans. Ain't God good? Amen. It's the era of good, the era of the elephant. It's the era of MVP. Damn! Now, I'm not the biggest Jake Paul fan at all, right? But I always respect his hustle. You know what I'm saying? I ain't never been no hater. I'm just not a fan of a boxer fighting non-boxers, or or watching two non-boxers fight. You know, to be Jake Paul having a boxing regimen, having boxers around his camp, you know, whether it's Jay Leon Love or ex-champion BJ Flores or cruiserweight, sparring with other boxers. To me, he's a semi-pro boxer. And I say semi-pro because his opponents aren't boxers, you know what I'm saying? And if they are a boxer, they are 40 years retired, you know what I'm saying? Or 30 years as senior, like Mike Tyson was, you know? So, but I always respect his hustle, man. I think Jake Paul's doing his thing, you know? And I do understand that he's mad. But to me, him being mad and talking this trash is a testament to him not being chosen. He's mad because he wasn't selected by the true face of boxing, the biggest brand in the sport, Saul Canelo Alvarez, aka Cinnamon, like I call him, you know what I'm saying? So he's clearly mad that Cinnamon didn't choose him, because if it was up to him, he would be fighting Canelo. So that just lets you, he just admitted himself that he is not the biggest name in boxing, while he is still a big name in boxing. So I understand it, but he's throwing a shot back at Canelo, at Big Turk, right? Because Big Turk called himself the Lion, right? And Jake Paul said, all of these felines want me to fail. And he said that he's the elephant. What's the elephant known as? Being the largest land animal, not in height, but in mass, you know? So he's saying that he's a big player. And I do think he is. But when you talk about Canelo, you talk about professional sports and boxing in particular, then I think it's a whole different ball game outside of celebrity events, which I think that's what he's doing. And I think he is a big player in that. And other fighters do want to fight him because of his name. But let's not conflate what he does with actual professional boxing at his highest level between two highly skilled combatants, you know. But yeah, I just want to talk about that, man, you know. So we do have an update. What you want to take from this is that Canelo is not fighting Jake Paul. Canelo and Terence Crawford is back on. Canelo and TURKI ALALSHIKH are back to doing dealings with each other, you know what I'm saying? And they have a 4-fight deal. Now, who is he going to fight? You know, there's some speculation, but nothing's solidified. And even still, the Bud fight is still not finalized. It's still not definitive, but at least, you know, it seems like it is, because Canelo gave his stamp of approval when Big Turk said that the fight is back on. They said nobody messes with him, man. So shout out to Big Turk. He's doing great things for boxing. Shout out to Canelo and Bud if they could get this fight situated and bring it to fruition. But if not, you know, I'm sure I'll come up with another update. You feel me? So don't forget to smack that like button. But most importantly, remember, with God, we do anything. Without God, we're nothing. The doctor's out. Peace.
From the hood to college, both worlds they had to meet. 6 degrees between us, so cold we're about to freeze. But we're Florida boys, hot takes, we bring the heat. We're moving the culture, the engineers to the streets.